Responding to this comment on my video, I would say the first one that comes to mind is that if we are eternal, we get to a point where we possibly acquire all knowledge and all power, and this reality has kind of been set up as entertainment, so which seems really bizarre. But if you have lived for eternity, or at least living for eternity at some point, you're going to need to limit your perception and to experience smaller things and to have challenges. And so you would be limiting your perception. You would be limiting it temporarily, of course. So think about that. If you've been say you didn't always exist, but you at some point started to exist, and now you're infinite, and you've lived for eons and eons and eons, however we can define that. And then you put yourself in this basically hell realm. I mean, it's a really terrible place, but what is 100 years of suffering? It's nothing compared to how long you've been existing. So that's one of the main reasons why I would say that that's one of the top possibilities. I'm not saying it is real. I'm not saying it's probably real. I'm just saying it's very possible that something like that is going on. Now, if you look at just our world, you could get deeper into it and say, well, that doesn't really make sense because, okay, so if we're here for an experience, why would they put us or me or whatever it is doing this, would create this world, just the world, and set it in motion, or the universe, I should say, and set it in motion, and it take millions and billions of years to even get to the point of humans. That doesn't make much sense, because you would just think, well, let's just get to the human part, and maybe it is. So maybe it is just set up like it looks like that happened, and then we're just here. But also, they or us could just be playing it out, to make it look, to provide the illusion for us, so that we're really truly getting the experience of this life. Because then we examine it, us critical thinkers examine it, and we see that, well, this looks like it's just, evolution, when yes, evolution can be real, but also this theory could be real. Now, like I say, I don't know what the chances of this are being true, and I do think that there's other possibilities in a spiritual scenario where life would be justified, and there's also spiritual scenarios where life wouldn't be justified. And I would say, for instance, if our spirits are all coming from the source, and again, I don't just as a disclaimer, I'm being philosophical here. I don't necessarily believe in a spirit. I don't not believe in it. So if we're all coming from the source, say that there's a source, and all these beings are coming out of the source, these conscious beings, in some kind of a dimension, or whatever you would call it, and at some point someone formed this one that we're currently in, and it's sucking souls or partial souls into this thing. They're what you would have to imagine, where like our physical beings, there's like some kind of dimensions in between this and the source. I don't know how many, that it's kind of like a connector, like an adapter or something. And then these beings like control this world, and they somehow feed off of our spiritual energy through these connectors, through these multi-dimensions. That would be an example of a spiritual scenario where life wouldn't be justified, because you could destroy all this existence, be an extinctionist here, and destroy all this existence, and that would be a plus still. So again, I'm just being philosophical here. This is not necessarily what I believe. These are just some ideas that I've come across, are came up with or improved upon or whatever that I think are decent, at least decent possibilities. Again, I look at the world very mathematically, and to me it just looks like we're born and we die. Okay, but if you look into things deeper, there's some pretty weird things going on, possibly from some legitimate sources. So I think it's erroneous to just totally assume that we are just here just for this life. But there's so many other possibilities too, or different variations of these very brief ones that I just mentioned.